This is Daniel with Perspective. Net neutrality determined that companies that provided services such as internet could not throttle connections, stop connections, or charge people to access those connections. Very much like how television works, where if you have a television connection, you have to buy certain channels and then they'll give them to you in package deals, getting some channels you don't like to get channels that you do like. In this case, the internet could be put into a system where if you are, say, Verizon and you have a streaming service that does video, well, maybe your natural competitor is YouTube and you can just block YouTube. Or you can go through the throttling mechanism, which means that if you don't like YouTube as a competitor, you can just make all their services incredibly slow rather than, have a fair market where the best product wins and gets access to. So in this case, it would be something like not being able to load a 1-minute Netflix video without having to buffer 10 times a minute each and ruining the entire viewing experience. Now, this was a great victory for Ajit Pai, the troll lawyer that used to work for Verizon, I would say. Still works for Verizon. He's just in a government capacity right now. And so now companies are free to discriminate as they wish on content as it comes out. This could result in services such as, hey, do you want to access the internet? Well, if you want Facebook, if you want YouTube, you want Instagram, you want Twitter, all those social media sites, well, it's a $30 package. Oh, maybe you like to use other services that aren't social media based, like Netflix. So maybe that's going to be a little extra money. Or maybe just like that Comcast did a number of years ago, they'll just charge Netflix directly for the traffic. This is a very big fear for smaller websites. A good example might be the difference between a site like Netflix and a site like Crunchyroll. Netflix is a very, very, very profitable site that has a huge content library that makes billions of dollars a year, whereas Crunchyroll is a much smaller entity that serves the anime community, but will be a good test case to see whether or not they can actually afford what's coming. Now, as a question to what actually is coming, well, whatever is going to happen, it's going to happen slowly. If we know anything from how corporations work in the past, they don't just go all of a sudden, okay, we're going to go from where we're at to charging you for everything. It's going to be very slow, very gradual. They can wait their time. They're already making a huge amount of money without the system being in place that they now can take advantage of, which would be the end of net neutrality. This is a situation where they're going to make a lot more money at the cost of small business, at the cost of people that actually create. This isn't going to be we're making money and increasing the size of a pie. It's we're going to take pieces of other people's pie away and make it all part of us. So again, that's your AT&Ts, your Comcasts, your RCN, but really the big people would be Verizon, AT&T, and Comcast. An argument commonly used against net neutrality is that, well, this was always how the internet was until Obama stepped in. As much as I don't agree with a lot of policies Obama did, this really was a maintenance of already existing policy. The internet for most of its history wasn't large enough or relevant enough to even make money off of the way that we're talking today. It wasn't the powerhouse, the worldwide force that it was. It was a small event. It was really only relevant maybe around 2008 when Obama ran for office, and that's not that long ago. So you have a system that was more or less in place since the start of the internet that was to some extent codified by the Bush administration. Again, the internet wasn't that old at all. And then the only person you can really blame for a lot of this would be Bill Clinton with the 1996 Telecommunications Act. But we're not going to get on that now. It's a video for another time, or you can just go check out John Oliver's really nice video on this subject. We have a system that has been in place under 2 different presidencies that is being upended by the current presidency, by a lawyer who used to work for Verizon, who's now in charge of the FCC, who has been pushing this through against the wishes of basically every American that exists. I mean, I think there's only 5 or 10% of Americans that agree with this. Who benefits from this change? Well, service providers do. If you are providing internet service, this allows you to charge both the customer and the business. It allows you to determine who gets access to content and who doesn't. It allows you to determine who has access at what speed to content and who doesn't, and also allows you to easily make a monopoly for your own services. Many states have already started passing laws against this preemptively because they knew it would probably pass through, and it's about half of the states. So that's going to be an issue for the FCC working forward. They've already stated that they have authority over the states, but if you know the Constitution, it goes the federal government, the laws of the federal government, well, the Constitution, the laws of the federal government, the state constitutions, which can, sometimes have a little more effect, and then you have state laws, and then you have department rules and regulations. So that's where the FCC is. This is where states are. So I don't think that that's going to be a real issue going forward. It's going to cost money and lawyers, obviously, but it's not going to be much of an issue past that. What we're dealing with is a system that has made America rich. It has made America powerful. It has increased America's influence and potential. It is a game-changing service that is the internet. It has been built and designed from the inception on the idea that you determine what you get to see, and no one determines how fast your traffic is. Now here's a really interesting point. One argument that has been floated by these mega corporations that decided that, hey, we really need to have this net neutrality pulled because we're not making enough money and we can't handle our service lines. These are companies that have not maintained, AT&T especially, has cable lines that are phone lines that are 50 years old that they've refused to upgrade or even maintain in those 50 years. You may have a coax cable that has 16 different individual phone lines on it, but only one of them that's actually working. That's what the internet in the U.S. is running. We are a laughingstock to the international community how shitty our internet is. It's terrible. We have terrible internet. We're one of the worst ranked countries for both speed and cost. Europe laughs at us for our connection speeds. Asia laughs endlessly at us for our connection speeds. Where we're arguing over, we can get 5 down. Do we count 5 down as bandwidth, broadband, or what do we do with it? In South Korea, all of them are saying, hey, we have at least 50 down at minimum. And the poorest connection, they have up to 1 gigabyte. That's the future. The future is how fast you can transfer data, not who can fight over the data the best. This is a very strong discussion that summarizes what's happening within the U.S. right now, where we're fighting over things that we've built in the past and not making things in the future. China's making things in the future. They're going to beat us. They're already way ahead of us in infrastructure development, working with countries. I mean, you've seen what we've been doing with our G7 allies and everything of that nature. The U.S. is setting itself up to be a backwater country. And that's a real shame because we have the potential to do anything. We have unlimited money, unlimited power. We have access to the entire world. It's at our fingertips. It's a click away, except it's very slow. Repealing net neutrality will eventually lead to it being reinstated by the next president. I'm convinced that Trump will not be elected a second term, though the Democratic Party has been known to shoot itself in the foot unprovoked and lose those things. So I'm not going to put all my weight into that. What I will say is that we've taken one of the biggest assets in the country and our growth in the world and lessened it. We cheapened it. They're not going to act right away. They're not going to cut the internet right away. It's going to be slow. It's going to be in steps. It's going to be, hey, you want to get this service, it won't count against your data bandwidth, which they're already doing with cell service. And then slowly and slowly it'll creep in, hoping that we don't notice the change or any specific change isn't large enough to start a reaction that people will mobilize for. It's a game that corporations have played for decades and gotten really good at. This is what they do. They know how to take away rules and then open themselves up into it just slowly enough that you don't notice it happening until it's happened. This is a risk to organizations such as Hard Lens Media. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if our website's going to get targeted. This is uncertainty. And for people that are very free market, I'm sure they understand what happens when there's uncertainty in the market. And again, I'm not convinced this is something that's going to last forever. Again, we already have a number of states who are putting up laws against it. There'll be some free bastions. Maybe we'll get some municipal broadband, although that has been an issue in the past. Whatever the case may be, free access to the internet is a right, just like food or shelter, clothing. If you don't have access to the internet in this day and age, you don't have access to the world. So I have a big issue with people that decide that they want to make some extra money by reducing the rest of society, making it lesser. That's what's happening. America will be lesser without net neutrality. But I don't think the fight's over yet. So what if Ajit Pai wins this round? He's a single man representing powerful people, and he's not going to be there forever. We have to keep fighting. This one matters. I'll see you guys tomorrow.